Welcome to today's meeting of the Bass Coast Shire Council, Wednesday the 15th of February 2023. As meeting chair, I give my consent for this open council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online in accordance with Council's live streaming policy and governance rules. Members of the public joining us in the gallery today, by attending this public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Chair and/or the CEO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behaviour and/or comments. Thank you. Mobile phone, please turn off all mobile phones, or in the case of an emergency, please advise the chair and switch to silent mode. Statement of acknowledgement. Bass Coast Shire Council acknowledge the Bunurong as the traditional owners and custodians of the lands and waters and pays respect to their elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and law. Bass Coast Shire Council celebrates the opportunity to embrace and empower the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities in their diversity. Bass Coast Shire Council will create opportunities for future recognition and respectful partnerships that will honour the traditional owners and custodians and Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander peoples. I would now ask Councillor Lang to read the councillor statement, please.
All members of this council pledge to the Bass Coast Shire community to consider every item listed on today's agenda, based on the individual merits of each item, without bias or prejudice, by maintaining an open mind and disregarding councillors' personal interests so as to avoid any conflict with our public duty. Any councillor having a conflict of interest in an item will make a proper prior disclosure to the meeting and will not participate or in the debate or vote on the issue.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. President apologies. Councillor Bruce Kent is an apology for today's meeting. There are no declarations of interest. Confirmation of minutes from the meeting held on the 14th of December. Can I have a councillor to move that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 14th of December 2022 be confirmed, please? Councillor Lasserve and Councillor Lang. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Mayor and councillor reports. We have two acknowledgements to be read today. I'll call on Councillor Lang to acknowledge the passing of Arnis Heisler, please.
You'll have to excuse me, Mr Mayor, I'm just working off my notes. Today we pay our respects to the family and friends of Arnis Heisler, who was a very valued member of the Wonthaggi and District Historical Society, and he recently passed away. He came to Australia as a refugee from the Balkans, and they settled in Merbau North. And then he had a long and distinguished career in the Forestry Commission and had an encyclopedic knowledge of trees and a real passion for the environment. His work in the Wonthaggi and District Historical Society was around restoring photographs, and as Sam Gatto said in his memorial service, that Arnis would have liked it if his legacy continued through the work, and that it would not have mattered at all to him that people didn't know that it was him who had done the work. So he was quite an unassuming fellow. So our sympathy to his family and friends, and he'll be sorely missed.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Call on Councillor Holstead to acknowledge the passing of Evan James Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to offer my condolences to the friends and family members of a strong, community-minded, long-serving Woodley Hall member, Evan James Jones, who passed away peacefully on the 30th of December 2022. Evan and the Jones family did a lot for the Woodley Vale area, but in particular, Evan's time on the Woodley Hall Committee, serving as president for 25 years, was an incredible achievement. Evan was a passionate Collingwood supporter and insisted that a photo of Bob Markham, who played for Collingwood but came from Woodley, was hung in the Woodley Hall. I'm sure Evan would have been very upset to hear Councillor Tassari singing the Carlton theme song earlier today. But testament to his popularity amongst the community was an attendance of approximately 140 people at his funeral. Some people travelling long distances from around Victoria to pay their respects. And as is the case these days, his service was also streamed live, where another 110 people were watching online. So shows just how far-reaching he was. So I thank Evan for his service and may he rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. That brings us to question time, and the first question is from Robin McKee, Dangerous Dog Declaration. And the question reads, before voting on an irreversible dangerous dog declaration on an innocent dog, what evidence did staff provide to council in defence? As lawyers are already involved, can council claim due diligence in this decision-making process to avoid unnecessary cost to both council and accused? CEO.
Through the Mayor, council is unable to comment on the specific details of this matter. The decision will not be considered at a future council meeting.
Questions 2, 3 and 4. Topic Australian National Anthem. Rob Langford, could you explain why the Australian National Anthem was not scheduled to be sung at the 2023 Australia Day Bass Coast Citizenship Ceremony? Whose decision was that, and will you commit to ensuring it does not happen at all future citizenship ceremonies? Kevin Griffin, the Australian Citizenship Ceremonies Code advises the Australian National Anthem Advance Australia Fair should be played. The failure of council to play the national anthem at the recent Citizenship Award ceremony should concern all councillors. What procedures will council put in place to ensure that such oversights are not repeated? Lavinus van den Newt, it seems to me that the welcome to country and the apology to our Aboriginal people was deemed more important than singing the national anthem at our recent citizenship ceremony for our 33 new Australian citizens. Could you please explain to me why this happened? Why do some members of this council and its office seem to listen to minority politics? CEO, in response, please.
Through the Mayor, in recent years, the practice of playing the national anthem at citizenship ceremonies has been inconsistent, and council commits to playing it at all future ceremonies.
Topic, question 5. Sunderland Bay Surf Beach Special Charge Scheme, Louise Lyle. Where in the 1989 Local Government Act does it state that government bodies with road frontages to the Sunderland Bay Surf Beach estates are not required to contribute to the special charge scheme?
Through the Mayor, only rateable land can be made the subject of a special charge under section 163 of the Local Government Act 1989.
Maxine Sando, again, Sunderland Bay Surf Beach Special Charge Scheme. How much has been spent to date on the Surf Beach and Sunderland Bay Special Charges Scheme project?
Through the Mayor, the expenditure to date developing a potential road and drainage project is $321,000.
Again, on the same topic, Amanda Bencraft, will BCSC guarantee ratepayers affected by the Surf Beach Sunderland Bay Special Charge Scheme that there will be a no change and or abandon scheme type of option available for ratepayers to select in the next round of BCSC community consultation with ratepayers? If not, why not?
Through the Mayor, yes. Property owners will have the option to object or support the project if council provide notice of intention to declare a special charge scheme.
The number of questions, council has received questions from 7 individuals regarding item 8.1, planning application 220204 11 Beach Road, Will. They come from Vicky Mutafis, Ricky Deaton, Sue Burridge, Gary Eustace, Kerry Armstrong, John Swarbrick, Martin de Brincat. This matter is listed for consideration on the council agenda, and the questions and will not be discussed further. Point. The questions will be published in the meeting minutes. Question 16, Mel Pinkerton, council borrowings. Would council provide a listing of council borrowings with their interest rates, which is a part of the borrowing terms?
Through the Mayor, at 31 December 2022, council had the following loans. Treasury Corporation Victoria, TCV, $11.737 million, interest rate at 2.72% fixed. TCV loan, Cows Cultural Centre, $4.4 million, interest rate 1.765% variable. Local government financing vehicle, $2.646 million, interest rate 3.97% fixed. LGFV, $63,000, interest rate 5.25% fixed.
Question 17, Michael Guz, renewable energy products. Can council explain the process used by council for the disposal of renewable energy products received by council from private and public sectors? Can council provide a detailed explanation of the repair works carried out to make operative electric vehicle charging stations at the Cowes Transit Station?
Through the Mayor, batteries are accepted at any of council's waste facilities at no charge and are sent for recycling. Disposal of solar panels is referred to the dedicated recycling facilities in the region. The repair works to make the EV chargers operational included rerouting underground cabling from the existing supply pit on Church Street in front of the old pickle site to a newly installed electrical supply pit in the footpath at the front of the transit centre.
Question 18, Kim Lightfoot, conflict of interest. Would council explain who or how is a conflict of interest determined prior to a council meeting for any person who attends the meeting?
Through the Mayor, it is the responsibility of the individual councillor or council officer to determine if they have a conflict of interest as set out in the Local Government Act 2020 and Local Government Governance and Integrity Regulations 2020.
Melissa Dagg, electric vehicles. Would council inform the upgrade cost to the power supply at the Granville transfer station so that electrical vehicles can be charged? Would council provide a listing of all electric vehicles in use by council employed people?
Through the Mayor, council is installing electrical vehicle fast charging stations for public use at 4 locations, including Granville Transaction Centre. As part of this project, electrical investigations will be completed to determine the need for additional power supply. Council has 2 electric vehicles in its fleet.
Question 20, Graham Jolly, Australian Government Voice Referendum. How did council determine the announced support to the Australian Government Voice Referendum? Was the decision through public community engagement or majority councillor vote, or was the decision made by a council senior officer or the CEO?
Through the Mayor, signed a joint statement of mayors in support of constitutional recognition through an Indigenous voice to Parliament. Council is committed to an ongoing process of reconciliation and community strengthening through building strong relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities.
Next one's Graham Jolly, Cowes Cultural and Community Centre. Council's new build, the Cowes Cultural and Community Centre, comprising multiple sections internally and externally. When will council publicly engage with the community to seek and determine naming for each section to the property and building?
Through the Mayor, information regarding community engagement in the naming process will be available in coming months.
Kevin Griffin, Bass Coast Ratepayers and Residents Association, Victorian Government Rate Cap. Victorian Government Rate Cap from 2023-24 was 3.5%. Last year, council budgeted to receive 44.6 million from residential rates. Will this council now assure our community that the 2023-24 budget will not seek to increase revenues raised from residential rates by more than 3.5%?
Through the Mayor, the 2023-24 budget is currently under development and there will be community engagement on the draft budget.
The notice is motion and there are none. Petitions. We have a petition at 7.1 against Sunderland Bay Surf Beach potential special charge scheme. I have a councillor to move, a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Holstead. Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Holstead.
I'm happy to move to accept the petition.
All right.
Thank you.
No debate. Happy to put that. Those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Reports requiring council decision, 8.1 planning application 220204 11 Beach Road, Rill. Mr Kelly to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for council to consider a planning application for the use and development of land for the purpose of a restaurant, industry, brewery, accommodation, the sale and consumption of liquor, licensed premises, accommodation, business identification signs, and the reduction in car parking in a mixed-use zone in the and land subject to annexation LSIO at 11 Beach Road, Rill. The applicant gave notice by register of mail, placing notice on land and a local newspaper. In response to the notifications, there were 49 submissions, received 44 objections and 5 in support. Concerns raised by submitters were considered in the assessment of the application, and these are detailed in the report. A single petition was submitted that included 40 signatures. Applicant 2204 has been assigned against Bass Coast Planning Scheme and is recommended the council resolve to issue a notice to sign to grant planning permit for this application subject to conditions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Kelly. Can I have a councillor to move and a councillor to second the resolution? Councillor Brooks and Councillor Bauer. Councillor Brooks.
Thanks, Mayor Whelan. First up, I want to talk about the planning clauses and zoning relevant for the Rill Restaurant and Brewery. The planning for the location of the site is for a commercial area. A further clause addresses coastal settlement, which focuses on sustainable coastal development. This site has beach road and car parks acting as a buffer between the building and the coast. The design of the building is simple and has a look of 2 garages or boathouses that recognise the history of the area. External materials used are metal and timber, again providing that look of an old boathouse. Overall, the building site and design is sensitive to the coastal environment. The zoning of this site is mixed use. This allows, among other things, residential, commercial and industrial uses. So from a planning and zoning position, this application is suitable. Another question is whether a restaurant and brewery is suitable for the Rill Township from a community point of view. Rill is known as a quiet, sleepy boating village, and many in the community want to keep it this way. Will this application significantly change the situation? First up, there is a Rill Bar and Restaurant, a similar business that serves food and alcohol, a few doors up, that has been operating for many years to the satisfaction of the community. The operating hours of the newly proposed restaurant and brewery will be consistent with the Rill Bar and Restaurant as far as closing times are concerned, that being 11 p.m. And as previously stated, the proposal is located within the commercial zone, away from the majority of the residential population. All these factors, I hope, work towards a business that operates within the expectations of the Rill community. Much of the concern from those objections was in relation to car parking. We don't know exactly what the impact of this new application will be on the car parking situation. What we do know is the existing conditions are very seasonal. Occupancy rates are low during most of the year, and there is lots of informal car parking available along the foreshore and Lock Road. This application comes at a time of increased demand for car parking within Rill, with cruise ships coming back and increased capacity at the boat ramp and jetty. With these changes, and should this application be successful, it's an ideal time to complete a car parking survey for the area. After discussions with council officers, I can confirm this will happen in Rill once the new brewery is operational. This is likely to occur within 2 years. The review includes consultation with all stakeholders, including business owners and residents, and determines the need for any car parking adjustments. I'm pleased this will happen, as we can ensure the car parking requirements for Rill will meet the demand. And finally, I'd like to thank the applicant for their initiative of such a business. They've gone to immense trouble to build a sustainable building for the site, and I believe Rill locals, the Bass Shire community and tourists will frequent this venue, bringing additional people and business to the commercial area of town.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors and fellow ratepayers watching these proceedings. This proposal is entrepreneurial. In the briefing to councillors, the proponents of this project presented an ambitious plan which could be of benefit to Rill. To me, it looks like a clever utilisation of the site, which is the last vacant block of land in the retail strip of Rill. To knock this proposal back because of smell or noise just doesn't sit well with me. There's already a hotel, restaurant and a fish and chip shop just a few doors down. I think the trading hours suggested in the attachments are reasonable for such an establishment. I did my own totally unscientific survey of some of the residents in Rill and found that the majority are in favour of this project. I was told that the Rill residents group also did an internal survey of its members with the majority in favour of the project. I do have one reservation, however, about this project, and that is the parking. Yet again, we have a large waiver of car park spaces. I'm seeing this becoming a trend. We did it for the 3-star development at Chapel Street, the hotel at 85 Thompson Avenue, and now the granddaddy of them all for this project in Rhyl. The attached traffic study shows that the cars can be parked all over Rhyl as an offset. I don't believe the residents of Rhyl should be subjected to such an inconvenience, especially since there's an underutilized car park directly opposite the proposal. The brand new car park and trailer car park should be dual purpose so that single cars can use it, especially in the off season. This would easily accommodate the 31 cars offset in this report and alleviate parking pressure for the whole retail strip along Beach Road. A study must be undertaken to address this growing trend in car parking waivers and real solutions implemented. That study should also include the other brand new car park in Anderson Street, boat wrapping cows, where exactly the same problem exists. In question time today, 7 questions were not read out in relation to this application, with the standard answer being given, it will be dealt with during the debate. I would like to have noted my strong objection to this approach, as I believe the questioners have the right to be heard in the chamber. All things considered, I am in favour of this proposal. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Holstead?
Mr Mayor, I just have a question for the planning officer, if possible. I think that would be Mr Kelly today. If he could advise the planning requirements for the ventilation system and that the surrounding residents have been considered to ensure their amenity is not deteriorated.
Thanks for that. It's fairly common within mixed-use zones, exhaust fans for developments are a commonplace. Exhaust fans are regulated by the National Construction Code. The code includes a range of performance requirements and standards that ensure the flow rate and discharge of the exhaust system are adequate. Should this application be approved, the requirement of the building permit for the regulation to be compliant with the code encompass any planning requirements within its permit.
Could I just ask one further question on that, Mr Mayor? Do we monitor if there are complaints around exhaust systems? Do we monitor that those systems are in line with regulations?
Through the Mayor, it's the EPA.
The EPA, okay, sorry. So thank you for that, Mr Kelly. I too have some concerns around car parking on this one, and it does appear to be becoming a bit of a trend being adopted by planners as acceptable practice, and this has been discussed in the chamber many times before. So I do request that planning officers again try to limit these requests for reduction in car parking. I do want to offer some relief if this does go through for residents. That as a business owner myself, my family actually own a restaurant, that I can offer them the following, and that is that in the best interest of the owners of this business, or it's in the best interest of the owners of this business to be mindful of their neighbours. And I'm sure that that's exactly what they will be doing. The neighbours will, they will rely on in quieter times. So the last thing that they will want to do is upset the neighbours. So I can offer you that maybe as a little bit of hope that if this is adopted and it goes through, that I'm sure the owners of the business will be doing everything they can to keep it within the regulations and work with the local community to ensure that it's accepted amongst the local community. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Lasserve?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This application had 49 submissions, so I just want to acknowledge those submissions against the application. The LSIO, which is the Land Subject to Inundation Overlay, has been a critical problem with the application, but has been amended to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. A cultural heritage plan has been provided and a landscape plan. This application offers opportunity for businesses, I might say, in around Rhyl and in Phillip Island, in Bass Coast, through tourism, employment and With Rhyl being the cruise ship entry point into Bass Coast, I think this is a way of showcasing this small business as well as others. The changes required by the proposed permit conditions are fairly minor in nature and will not impact on the building design, but largely are about the energy efficiency, which I will hope will address the any noise issue and can be taken up if there is an issue. Acoustic measures and other design are not the design of the building. So I think there's been a number of requests about parking, and I think that will be dealt with, as Councillor Rook stated previously about Ryl's car parking survey.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Now the councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Rooks in reply?
Nothing further.
Okay, we'll put that. Those in favour? That's carried. Which brings us to 8.2, planning application 220318, One Page Avenue, Surf Beach. Mr Kelly, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for council to consider a planning application for subdivision at One Page Avenue, Surf Beach. Application 220318 has been assessed against the Bass Coast Planning State, and it is recommended the council resolve to issue the notice of decision to grant a planning permit for this application subject to conditions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Kelly. Can I have a councillor to move and a councillor to second the report, please? Councillor Holstead. Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. After reading the submissions for this development, I find myself supportive of the points they raise and frustrated at the lack of ability to refuse the permit, as the application sits within the planning regulations and legislation. This is a regular occurrence in planning and why our housing and neighbourhood character studies are so important. It is critical that when these documents go out for community consultation, that community members ensure they become involved. Wearing the hat of a responsible governing authority, I feel I have no choice, given that it complies with the regulations and the legislation, to support the recommendation of the planning team. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This one, 7 objections for a 3-lot subdivision. It's basically infill, but there is I was interested in the 173 limit on title, which is a 4-metre wide strip of planting, which will be monitored by council and I'm sure by the local residents on this application. There are similar lot sizes and lots within that given area. The planning controls satisfied in the zone is right. The overlays and particularly the provision of that provision within the residential subdivision and public open contribution, and they have been adhered to. So, it's just these small blocks sometimes it's not in favour of everybody, but when I've spoken to people, there's an understanding that some people do require a small block. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Holstead.
Nothing further.
Or shall we put that to the vote? Those in favour? Against? Carried. Planning up 8.3, planning application 220419 1B to 2C Ocean View Drive, San Remo. Mr Kelly, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for council to consider a planning application for the development of land for a dwelling and the design and development overlay schedule DD01 and 1B 2C Ocean View Drive, San Remo. The application 220419 has been assessed against the Bass Coast Landscape and is recommended that council resolve to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for the application subject to conditions. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Kelly. Can I have a councillor to move and second this report, please? Councillor Holstead, Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you again, Mr Mayor. I intend on supporting the recommendation on this one, but I did wish to highlight once again, after reading many submissions, that there seems to be a misconception in the community that 7 metres height restriction means that a planning permit can be refused if it is 7 metres or over. That is incorrect. The 7 metres is a planning trigger only. If a planning permit comes in at 7 metres or above, it means that the planning department have to take a closer look, and often it does come to council because it takes concerns with community members. This particular development is in a court position. Don't believe it will affect too much the views of others, which is another issue that's been raised in submissions. And planning have managed to reduce an original height of 8.53 metres down to 7.85 metres. So if we're talking about the 7 metre rule, then it's 0.85 over that. So I will be supporting the recommendation of planning officers. Thank you.
Councillor Halsey. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, and just as Councillor Hull has said about the height, and I'll just go through my notes that there were 10 objections. This application is to develop the land for a dwelling in a DD01, which is a design and development overlay number 1. So the main issue of all those objections was the height above ground level. And as Councillor Hull said, it triggers the need for a permit. It's allowable in the zone and under the planning scheme. It should be noted the applicant has amended the original plans to reduce the height in consultation with the staff. The DD01 only refers to the height as a preferred height and it creates that trigger, the need for a planning permit. It's a cleared block in a residential estate that has many houses around it, and there are several double stories nearby. So I'm happy to support.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? If not, Councillor Halstead, shall we put that?
Put to the vote, thank you.
Okay, those in favour? And that's carried. Planning scheme 8.4, planning scheme review. Mr Kelly, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to the Bass Coast Planning Scheme Review 2022, the review to the Council for consideration. Council as the planning authority for Bass Coast Planning Scheme is required to undertake a review of its planning scheme within 1 year of the adoption of the Council Plan under section 12B of the Planning and Environment Act 1987. Yeah. If the review is adopted, the Council will have a clear way forward for the prioritisation of the further strategic work programme for the improvement of planning outcomes. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Kelly. Have a councillor to move, Councillor Lang, and Councillor second, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As Mr Kelly highlighted, this is a requirement under the Planning and Environment Act. However, our council does not just rubber stamp these planning scheme reviews, but is actually already started in earnest the strategic work that underpins what the planning scheme is seeking to achieve. It does cover a range of issues that permeate our community, including tourism, industrial areas, agricultural uses, and environmentally sustainable design, which is a very pleasing thing to see. And our council, as I said, has been a leader on the undertaking the strategic work, and councillors have been working with council officers and with bated breath for the progress on the neighbourhood character study as well as the housing strategy. And we have also been leading in the state with the work that we've undertaken through the land subject to inundation overlays across portions of the Shire. It is very interesting to note that in this council term, planning permit activity is not equal across the Shire. Inverloch has experienced the highest number of applications, accounting for 16.5% of all applications, and the trend was for new dwellings. Inverloch is overdue for a precinct structure plan as well as a town centre restructure plan as identified in the scheme. And the scheme does recommend an investigation and review. And as a Bunurong Ward councillor, I'm very excited to see the outcome of that. And we can't effectively protect townships like San Remo, which is also in line for a township plan, or Inverloch without these kinds of this kind of background work. A lot of the work on housing along our council is also hinging on a lot of the state government projects, including the Distinctive Area Landscape Plan and the Cape to Cape Coastal Hazard Assessment from Cape Patterson to Cape Liptrap. This statutory requirement provides council with an opportunity to reflect on an effective planning process for our townships to ensure that we can cope with the population growth, which has definitely exceeded our projections. And we sort of wait also in limbo for the outcome of the distinctive area and landscapes policy.
Thank you, councillor Lang. Councillor Rooks.
Oh, you covered virtually everything, didn't you? I only want to, so I'll just say something quickly, which is the review recognised climate change, very much so, and how it impacts our land here in the Bass Coast. The change in weather, the severe weather we have now, the very dry weather followed by wet weather. And with the wet weather, it causes flooding from our agricultural perspective, and also with rising flood levels in our coastal environment. So it's really important, as the review recognised, that we continue to advocate to the state government to get updated flood mapping tools to help us with our land management planning. That's all.
Thank you, councillor Rooks. Any other councillor wish to speak?
Sorry, Mr Mayor. Me again.
Councillor Holstead.
Planning department are often the centre of expressed frustration from residents who are concerned about the impact of development across the Shire. That's both residential and commercial, and we've all seen some of that in the agenda today and agendas right through our term. The work laid out in this report is crucial for the protection and direction of the built environment for Bass Coast. It's a huge workload, much of which officers have progressed while waiting for the release of the long-awaited Victorian Government's Distinctive Area and Landscape. Strategic documents, once again, I mention them, neighbourhood character, housing strategy, and the important climate adaptation work, just to name a few, are crucial for the protection of what we all admire about Bass Coast. I congratulate the officers on their foresight in being ahead of the game and to have begun the work, as well as their commitment to creating the necessary framework that will offer us as councillors a toolkit for protecting and enhancing Bass Coast. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Lang, do you?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If I may briefly wrap up, I just wanted to also highlight that the planning scheme does also recommend that the biolinks are more consolidated through overlays into our planning scheme. And it's also important to highlight as well that we still have a big question mark about what housing growth looks for our Shire. Are we providing homes for holiday homes, or are we providing homes for the general population? And I suppose that's a tricky question that we would love to see some more clarity on. I really encourage councillors to support the planning scheme, this final report, and endorse it.
Thank you, councillor Lang. Those in favour? That's carried. 8.5 Planning Scheme Amendment C162 Bass Road, Bass. Mr Kelly, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present to Council the submissions received following the public exhibition of Planning Scheme Amendment C162. The amendment proposes to rezone the land at Bass Road, Bass, more particularly described as Lot 1 LP1 49977, from farming zone to low density residential zone. Exhibition of the amendment attracted a total of 7 submissions and one late submission. The report provides an overview of the 7 submissions that were received and recommends that Council refer the amendment to a planning panel to consider the unresolved submissions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Kelly. Have a councillor to move and second the motion, please. Councillor Lasserve and councillor Holstead. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As the officer said, 8 submissions. And some of them were lengthy submissions. So this application is for the rezoning from farmland to low density residential zone. It's not the subdivision plans, it's the start of the process. The recommendation before us requests that because of the numbers of objection that council refer the application to the planning panel. I think if you look down the report at page 109, this process has taken considerable time to date for the applicant, but this next step is a part of the recommendation, is a part of the process that must be followed correctly. As stipulated in the Planning Environment Act, it gives the community a say for their concerns and issues to be raised and be heard at the hearing. So I think that's, it's taken a long time, but I think that's a fair call. So.
Thank you, councillor Lasserre. Councillor Holstead.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm comfortable that the matter be referred to an independent panel appointed by the Minister for Planning, and the submissions received are referred to the panel for consideration.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? Not happy to put that, councillor Lasserre.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Those in favour? That's carried. 8.6 Pump Track Reference Group. Ms Kennedy to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek authorisation from the council to approve the establishment of a BMX Pump Track Reference Group and nominate a councillor to chair the group, and to endorse the draft terms of reference for the BMX Pump Track Reference Group. Given the interests and benefits of pump and BMX tracks, council offers to establish a reference group which will help determine suitable locations and undertake strategic development across the municipality. The BMX Pump Track Reference Group will be an advisory council committee to council. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Kennedy.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move an alternative motion.
Okay, I'll just call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you.
Your alternative. Can we put that up on the screen, please? Do you have it in front of you, councillor Holstead?
I do.
Would you just like to read it without speaking to it? Oh, here we go.
There we go.
All right, just like to read that out.
That council approves the establishment of a BMX pump track mountain bike reference group and nominates councillor Halstead to chair the group. And 2, endorse the draft terms of reference for the BMX pump track mountain bike reference group.
Okay, so the change is to include mountain bikes with,
BMX and mountain bikes.
okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder for that, councillor Rooks? Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've talked so often about how we can assist our young people across Bass Coast, and this reference group is a great start. I was pleased to present the petition for pump track in Cape Woolamai and to meet with local residents who are passionate about providing infrastructure for our young people. This reference group will work to give council a greater understanding of age limitations, interests and designs, and with a wider scope to provide for all age groups from very young through to senior riders. These facilities will go a long way to stopping the illegal removal of vegetation across the Shire, where kids are building their own tracks. Remembering that a lot of us had the freedom to do this while growing up before it became an unacceptable practice due to the damage and destruction we now know it causes. But if we have taken that option away from our youth, we should be creating a safe, well-designed legal replacement that contributes to their health and well-being, both physically and mentally, and one that provides for growth and progression. Including all 3 of these sports will do that, and I hope councillors will support the recommendation with the proposed amendments. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Councillor Rooks.
Just to note that, within the Bass Coast Shire, we are a bit of a surfing community, and skating and cycling, scooters, all those sorts of things which come under the pump tracks and BMX and mountain biking, it's very much aligned to surfing. When they can't get in the surf, that's what they want to do. That's where they learn to balance. And so this is a really important strategy.
Thank you, councillor.
This group needs to be established to make it happen.
Thank you, councillor Rooks. Any other councillor Tassari?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree, and I think the addition put forward by councillor Holstead is a good one. We've been hearing for quite some time from the mountain bikers that they would like somewhere in the Shire. We've seen it happen in other areas. I know East Gippsland have spent considerable funding making it happen, and people have come in droves. So it also happened down in Tasmania as well, and we have heard from groups for a long time. We also see, people in Wonthaggi up at the old water tower make their own tracks up there in the trees there and decimate the bushland. So agreeing with what Councillor Holstead had to say, if we give them something significant and well made, then they don't have to go and make their own. So I totally agree, and I think the addition just enhances it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tessari. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Holstead,
Happy to put to the vote.
to put it to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried. 8.7, Communications and Engagement Strategy. Mr. Box to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the final Communications and Engagement Strategy 2023-26 for adoption by Council. The strategy sets the foundation for Council to prioritise its key communications and engagement activities. It seeks to build and maintain transparent and open communications and provides an opportunity for everyone to participate in Council activity and decisions. Bass Coast will use multiple channels and platforms to engage. We acknowledge our community business owners, workers and visitors consume content in a range of ways that suit them best. The final strategy presented to Council for adoption was developed taking into consideration feedback from 2 phases of community consultation. It's recommended that Council endorse the Communications and Engagement Strategy 2023-26. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Box. I have a councillor to move and second, Councillor Lang and Councillor Brooks. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This communications and engagement strategy has lent heavily on the communications and engagement policy and has taken into account the feedback from that policy as well as the new feedback that we've applied through this strategy. It's really good to see that we're building on the work that we originally started. I think when we first approved the policy, I think also it's important to note that there have been significant improvements with how we update the community, particularly through the Engage Bass Coast website, which has become really well utilised by the community and continues to be very accessible for project updates. It's always really also excellent to see council officers out and about in the community. And I bumped into one of the councillors' officers going door to door to every business in Wonthaggi just the other day, promoting the Buy Local campaign. So that's a very exciting campaign that the council is leading. Plug to that campaign, but I'm just going to get back onto topic. The strategy aims to reinforce the way that we deliver the information, but I think it's also highlighting that we are actually reflecting to the community that we're listening to them. So I encourage the community to keep communicating with us, and we will keep the lines open and continue to make them more and more accessible through this strategy.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. As Mr. Box said, there are a myriad of ways that people can engage with us in our community. And as a council, we have to be responsive to that and make sure we can receive it all. At the same time, we must manage our engagement to ensure that we are efficient and effective with our communication. I really like the fact that there's a focus on access and inclusiveness for all. And we take advantage of the technology that's available, though some of us older people don't do it so well. And I like the last focus that we have, which is working towards building partnerships through this exchange of information. And they're the 4 focus areas of this communication strategy. And so I believe very supportive of this.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Any other councillor wish to speak?
Mr. Mayor, I've just got a quick comment.
Yep, go for it,
Just a
Councillor.
bit of trivia for you, Mr. Mayor. When I was reading the report, it suggested on page 453 that female participation in this process was almost 3 times that of male. So it's just a little bit of side trivia, and I would like to encourage the men to get on board and get involved. Thank you.
That would have been perfect timing for me to come up with my saying that I've been practicing.
I don't think we'll go with that. I see Councillor Lark would like to speak. Councillor Lark.
Thank you. In my opinion, this strategy does not clarify the confusion about what deliberative processes in community engagement actually are and when to use and not use deliberation. The criteria for deliberative engagement is not clear, and there is too much discretion in the proposed strategy in terms of defaulting to the IAP2 spectrum. Random selection to the right of the IAP2 spectrum, such as collaboration or empowerment, and using multiple platforms, etc., does not equal deliberative, and more work is needed to clarify these aspects from a process and strategic perspective to meet community expectations in relation to communication and engagement. There's further work to be done.
Thank you, councillor Lark. You had finished, yeah? Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think councillor Lark's right. There is always work to do with when it comes to community engagement. There are multiple avenues of, or multiple channels of way that the community can now get in contact with council, put their thoughts over. The report said, you know, there was 38 submissions, 109 people responded to the survey, and there were many more points of face-to-face, online and pop-up contacts with the community to give their feedback. The draft strategy came to council in November 2022. Based on that feedback from the community, is now able to be put in place the actions required to effectively engage across Bass Coast with multiple channels. And I think that's the point. And can I also just put a quick plug in for Engage Bass Coast website, because I think that on projects really enables the community to tap straight into the projects that the council are delivering in all across Bass Coast and in people's communities, and they get the hard facts right there and then in front of them. So go Bass Coast, engage Bass Coast.
Thank you, councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor speak? If not, councillor Lang.
Oh, nothing further.
Happy to put that. Those in favour? Against? That's carried. 8.8 Cowes Public Art Commission 2023. Mr Box to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek council approval to allocate $90,000 from the Public Art Reserve to increase the budget allocation to the Cowes Public Art Commission to a total of $180,000. Public art changes, challenges and transforms our public spaces and places, and it's a key and accessible driver in delivering a creative community. Cowes was the selected site for this year from the Public Art Sites and Things Plan, endorsed by council. In a recent expression of interest process, over 50 artists from across Australia submitted. The increased budget for the project will afford an opportunity to make a statement for Cowes by providing a visible, creative connection between the new cultural centre and Thompson Avenue. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Box. Have a councillor to move and the councillor to second the report, please. Councillor Rooks and councillor Holstead. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I think this is a positive recommendation for art in our shire. The building, the Cowes Cultural Centre, has obviously a huge focus on the arts with its theatre, 250-seat theatre, and a permanent art space, and also the opportunity for plenty of other temporary art spaces and exhibitions. It seems pertinent, therefore, that a magnificent piece of artwork could be placed on the site. And it's timely that this year it was Cowes' turn to get the piece of art, which we rotate around the shire each year. And there was this use of unallocated funds that we could put towards it. I think the new budget that's been proposed will meet the expectations of a suitable piece of art for the site.
Thank you, councillor Rooks. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just say that really we haven't gone halfway on anything to do with this project, so I would ask the question, why would we do so now? This is a project that has continued through this term of council after decisions were made at the last term. So in relation to the public art, council, I think, has an obligation to ensure that the art piece that is purchased does create a statement. The building itself will create a big statement upon completion. And I think it will also take a prominent place on the site. I agree with councillor Rooks with Mr Box that art should entice people to explore, engage and enjoy the arts. It should inspire the imagination, intrigue and stimulate interest. So I think that by using the Arts Reserve, it's an appropriate use of those funds. It's there for the arts, and as the chair of the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, I'm pleased to support the recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Lark?
To repeat from previous council meetings, the existence of reserves does not necessarily mean that council has the cash funds available to allocate to the reserves purposes. In my view, this further allocation of $180,000 from reserves is an illusion.
Point of order,
Thank
Mr
you.
Mayor.
Just hold, councillor Lark. Councillor Holstead, point of order.
It's not 180,000 from the reserves. There is already funding in the budget, which is an annual spend.
Okay, well,
And then the reserves is, I believe, through you, Mr Mayor, to Mr Box, is it 90,000?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes.
so there's no point of order. The correction, councillor Lark, is that I think we're talking about allocating an additional 90,000 from reserves.
We are, but the
Anyway,
full
just a
amount.
correction. Yes, carry on.
We are, but the full amount is coming from reserves.
No, that's incorrect. Through you, Mr Mayor, could we just have that confirmed by Mr Box where the funds are coming from?
I'm not sure that Mr Box knows, but councillor, Mr Mack perhaps might like to answer that.
Through the Mayor, funding towards the public art program does come from rates in the capital works program each year.
Yep.
Any unspent funds gets put in reserves for future use.
Okay. Councillor Lark, continue.
No, I've finished, thank you.
No, have you? Okay, thank you very much. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment more than anything that a big project like this needs a big piece of art in front of it, and a big piece of art does not come out of 20-cent pieces. And I think I fully endorse the agenda item as it is, and I think that even if it does come from reserves, I think we should use the reserves for this once in a lifetime project. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Bauer. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Rooks?
Just to mention that there is already strong interest in this piece of art. Normally we get around 20 applicants for our art that's placed around towns of Bass Coast, but this year already we've got 50 people that have expressed an interest in being part of this. So that's great to know, and I'm sure they'll be pleased that there's a bigger budget so they can build a greater piece of art.
Thank you, councillor Rooks. We'll put that motion then. Those in favour? Against? Carried. 8.9 Bass Coast Community Awards. Mr Box to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Following Council's decision in December to change the timing and format of the former Australia Day Awards, this report seeks Council's endorsement for the establishment of the new Bass Coast Community Awards program, including new award categories. The report recommends scheduling the award presentation ceremony on the 15th of May 2023 to coincide with National Volunteer Week, and to seek nominations for 4 award categories, including a new Community Group Award and a rotating category that this year will be an Environment and Sustainability Award. The award program provides the opportunity for us all to acknowledge the significant contribution made to Bass Coast from those within our community, and will be an inclusive celebration for the whole community. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Box. Can I have a councillor to move and a councillor second the motion, please? Councillor Tassari and councillor Lasserve, is it? Yes, councillor Tassari. Get tongue-tied.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Although I voted against this move back in the December meeting, because I do like the idea of the awards being on at the Australia Day end of year. I do like the concept of what we've come up with here, and I think it's a good piece of work that the staff have worked on. I think the idea of revolving or rotating the awards each year and giving everybody the option to have their chance to be nominated, I think is a really good one. And I also would love to be involved in the selection criteria. So that's why I'm moving the recommendation.
Okay, Just to clarify there, councillor Tesari, was that indicating also that you were nominating yourself as the nominee?
Well, certainly, if no one nominates me, I would nominate myself.
I think in terms of the resolution, it will include your name, so I'm happy with that, and just making sure the seconder is happy with that.
Very happy with that,
Oh.
Mr Mayor, thank you.
Just as that was a clarification, so I'll now pass to you, councillor Lasserve, to speak as a seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And look, I understand that most people don't like change, but I believe we need to be able to get better participation and recognition for the outstanding services in our community that people assist us with. Council in the past years has struggled with getting nominations, although we've had many excellent candidates put forward in the past years, but it's often a very small number. So I hope this new approach will refresh the award program, and I'm very happy to support it. I think that with the amount of work people do, so all I can do in my delivery of this report is to say, encourage people to, because I haven't got a lot of time for the nominations to come in, is to be really proactive and get those nominations in early and really participate in putting people's names forward. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Lark.
Thank you. The restrictive panel composition effectively disenfranchises councillor involvement in community awards decisioning for their ward and shire overall, which in my view is a retrograde step. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Lark. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Tesari, shall we put that?
Oh, yes, thanks.
So we'll put that motion. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried. 8.10, quarterly performance report, Q2, October to December 2022. Mr Mack, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report provides council and community update on the second quarter performance for our annual action plan, capital works program and financial results. It includes forecasts for full year results. Key highlights for this quarter include progress being made on 24 annual action plan items, including the completion of Guy Park redevelopment project, trucks and trails strategy being adopted, and the completion of the coastal protection works at South Foreshore. A forecast net result for 2022-23 of 17.7 million surplus, and a forecast adjusted underlying net result of 1.5 million deficit, and significant progress being made on the 58.5 million capital works program. The quarterly performance report will be available on council's website. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Councillor, to move and second that report, please. Councillor Holstead and councillor Lasserve.
I did have a question too, Mr.
And the question to start with.
Given San Remo's had significant development and very little progress in infrastructure, why has only 20% of this project, which is the San Remo Township Plan, been completed? And can you advise how much of the budgeted 150,000 in the budget has been utilised for what purpose?
Is that appropriate, Mr Mack?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. The action for this year is to commence development of the township plan, so it's a multi-year action. And experts are currently being engaged for traffic, car parking, cultural heritage, drainage, environmental and land capability advice. So we expect that this is going to be fully committed this financial year, and with the balance of the funds to be spent and the work to be completed next financial year.
Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Another question. Can officers explain why the neighbourhood character study and housing strategies are reliant upon the state government finishing their statement of planning policy, and when it is expected this work will be complete so council can move forward with this important work?
Through you, Mr Mayor. There are significant retractions and extensions to town boundaries in that work, such as in San Remo, Grantville and Newhaven, proposed, and a large number of submissions relating to Cape Patterson. So it's difficult for officers to understand at this time the total amount of land available for housing. This impacts the type and densities that we'll need to plan for in order to meet our 15-year land supply target.
So in a nutshell, we're waiting for the Dell. Yep. Thanks, councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mack. I don't have anything further to add, but I will be supporting the recommendation for the quarterly performance report.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Councillor Lasser.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to make it clear that the community can access quarterly reports at any time via the council website, so it's there, it's open, it's transparent. These reports are presented to the Audit and Risk Committee, with independent members on it, which is a really, I consider, a very important factor. I think it's also important that we do celebrate our achievements and provide that transparency and maintain good governance in this process, which I believe we have. The report speaks to the annual action plan performance, the financial performance and the council plan. And as stated before, the highlights are completion of the Tracks and Trails strategy, year 1 action for the Living Young People, a young plan, completing the Cows East Foreshore Precinct project, the Wonthaggi Guide Park redevelopment, and the capital works delivery of the Cows Cultural Centre, which is on track but not completed. So I'm happy to support the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Lasser. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I very briefly wanted to highlight one of the projects that was delivered in this quarter, and that was the Wonthaggi Guide Park redevelopment. It has been completed, although some components may look like they haven't been finished. They have been unfortunately impacted by vandalism. So we're going back and having to put things as they were when it was first completed. But it is already a very, very well used park, and that's the feedback I've had from users, and I really welcome further use of it and the repairs to those portions.
Thank you, councillor Lang. Any other councillor? Councillor Lark.
Thank you, Mayor. The financial report for this quarter highlights again that fundamentals have not been addressed, including continuation of adjusted underlying deficits, inadequacy of internal financing for capital works, and trend of rapid increase in borrowings. And these and other factors reinforce my opinion for me to restate that a major transformation of future operating results is imperative. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Lark. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Holstead, shall we put the report?
Yes, please.
The motion. Those in favour? Against? That's carried. 8.11, instruments for appointment and authorisation. Mr Mack, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to recommend that council appoint the named officers as authorised officers under the Planning and Environment Act 1987 and the Environment Protection Act 2017 and associated instruments obligations, as well as revoke authorisation to officers that no longer require it. The recommended changes to instruments of appointment and authorisation will be made as implement council's decision. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Councillor to move and a councillor to second that motion, please. Councillor Rooks and councillor Lang. Councillor Rooks, are you happy that we can put that, or do you wish to speak to it?
I'm happy that we just put it to a vote.
Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to.
Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, we'll put that motion. Those in favour? That's carried. Brings us to 8.12, award of tender number 22075, Real Place Base Stage 2. Mr Mack, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to recommend council accepts the tender submission and awards contract number 22075 for Real Place Base Stage 2 to Planned Constructions Proprietary Limited for the sum of $268,812.35 plus GST. Council received one tender submission for this project. On review, the tender from Planned Constructions was still considered to represent value for money within the current market. Planned Constructions have the relevant experience, capability and capacity to complete this project. The project will be funded from $235,000 from State Government Growing Suburbs Fund grant, with the balance to be funded from Council's Resort Recreation.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Can I have a councillor to move and a councillor to second? Councillor Bauer and councillor Lang. Councillor Bauer.
You nearly got me there, right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors and fellow ratepayers watching these proceedings. It gives me great pleasure to introduce this agenda item. This is a good news story. I've been involved with the Real Boat Ramp and Playground project since the beginning. Last year, due to budgetary pressures and the cost blowouts that have impacted so many of our capital works program, it was decided to spread the implementation of the playground over a few years. I wish to commend Officer James Kelly and the other council officers for finding a way to finish the playground over 2 budgetary cycles rather than the initial proposed 3. The community is happy and the children are even happier. I have it on good authority. There's even secret footage of our deputy mayor trying out the new slide on the visit to the playground last year by all councillors. I'm glad to report the slide is still structurally sound. I commend this motion to the
I feel like I should stop you there, councillor Bowe, but I think you stopped yourself. Councillor Lang, right of reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have much more to add, but I just wanted to highlight the significant community involvement during the budget bid process. I think this is a really good demonstration of how council listens to communities and the community when they have a really good project proposal. So I just wanted to highlight that we will continue to undertake the budget bid process, and that is a really direct way for the community to engage with us, and this demonstrates the results of that process. I'm hopeful that I'm being careful for what I'm not being careful for what I wish for in that situation, but yeah, just wanted to highlight that part of the funding for this project.
Thank you, councillor Lang. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Lark.
Thank you. And this is a repeat of my earlier comments. The further allocation from reserves of $148,719 for this project is, in my view, a further illusion, given my earlier meeting comments, that being the existence of reserves does not necessarily mean that council has cash funds available to allocate to the reserves purposes. In summary, the funding model in relation to reserves, in my opinion, is flawed.
Thanks, councillor Lark. I've allowed some flexibility there because it's somewhat off subject, but any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Bowe, do you wish? You probably shouldn't, I suggest, close.
I think under your advice, we'll just put it to a vote.
No offence taken.
So those in favour? And against? It's carried. 8.13, award of tender number 22060, Settlement Road Renewal, Cowes. Mr Mack, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to recommend the council does not award tender number 22060 for Settlement Road Renewal, Cowes. Public tender process was undertaken and 3 tender responses were received. An assessment of the tenders identified that the total project cost was likely to be at least 60% more than the adopted budget of $1 million. There were also a number of other risks associated with timing utility service provider works. Council officers are currently reviewing the project with a view to deliver using an alternate model within the approved budget. The intention is to deliver it in a timely manner to meet community expectations. As the value exceeds $1 million, the council decision to not award the tender is required and this is recommended. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mack. Can I have a councillor move and a councillor second the motion, please? Councillor Rooks and councillor Lasserve. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. This is a bit of a different one because we're trying to vote to say we're not going to support a tender. And in this case, there are good reasons. As Mr Mack explained, the tenders that came back, or submissions that came back from the tender were 60% higher than what we anticipated or budgeted for. And there's some other complex issues with other service providers doing work in the area, which has added complexity and probably budget to it as well. So the the sensible thing to do is to say no to this and close this tender, and then we can begin the work that we need to do on this road network as soon as we can.
Thank you, councillor Rooks. Councillor Lasserve.
Nothing further to add.
Nothing. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, fellow ratepayers watching these proceedings. I won't lie. I am disappointed that this capital works progress project has been put on hold. However, I do see the logic in completing the necessary utility works before relaying the new surface. I wish to reassure the ratepayers in this area I will keep a close eye on this project, ensure that it does not drift out into the never never. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Bauer. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Rooks, wish to speak further or put that to a resolution? Those in favour? That's carried. Brings us to statutory reports. Could I have a motion and a seconder to the resolution of agenda items 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4, 9.5 be considered as a block, please? That's councillor Lasserve, councillor Tessari. Are those in favour? That's carried. Now, does any councillor wish to speak to any of those reports? If not, can we have a motion that the recommendations attached to agenda 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4 and 9.5 be adopted, please? Councillor Bauer and councillor Rooks, are those in favour? That's carried. That brings us to urgent business, and I have a request from councillor Tessari for an item of urgent business in relation to Phillip Island Community and Learning Centre be introduced. We need councils to vote on whether that is considered to be an urgent matter. So that's moved. I take it, councillor Tessari. Seconded. Councillor Rooks. Those in favour of admitting the item as urgent business? Against? That's carried. Councillor Tessari, would you read your the resolution that you propose?
I'm allowed to talk to it, Mr. Mayor?
Not at this point. We haven't moved and seconded, so we'll just put the resolution and then we'll seek a seconder.
Can we put it up on screen?
Mr. Mayor, could I interject just for a moment? Mr. Tessari.
Is it a point of order, councillor Lark?
Point of order. Councillor,
Yes,
I don't
point of
know.
order. Go ahead.
I can't see councillor Tessari on screen.
Sorry, councillor Lark. I drifted.
Moment of lapse concentration. Thank you, councillor Lark. Oh, now I can't see anyone. Oh, yes, they are. Okay, we have the resolution. Would you like to read that?
I actually can't. I actually can't.
I'll read it. The council right to Phillip Island Community and Learning.
I can do it.
All right.
The council write to the Phillip Island Community and Learning Centre, Pickle, to express its disappointment that the mayor, councillors or council representatives were not invited to attend the official opening of the new Pickle building. That the letter A highlights that council has worked tirelessly to accommodate the needs of Pickle with both the current and previous board. B notes that council has contributed significant funds and in-kind support, including $800,000 for the land, $1.951 million for the construction and $239,343 for the relocation of the community garden. And C reiterates council's desire for the collaborative and shared approach to delivering quality services to the community.
Thank you, councillor Tessari.
Just before you do, councillor, sorry, Mr. Mayor, there's just a word, I think, or a mistake in there. It was open day. It was open day, not the opening of Pickle.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry to.
Are you happy to correct that, councillor Tessari? We'll correct that before. Thank you,
Typo there.
councillor Holster, before we call for a seconder. So do we have a seconder for that?
Sorry.
That's all right. Councillor Rooks, councillor Tessari.
So now I can talk to it? Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. just like to touch on how incredibly disappointed I am at the at the Facebook posts on the weekend by official members of Pickle, posted some fairly false information, and that no councillor has found it important enough to attend the open day. I was not invited, and I find it disgusting that the mayor was not invited. Council has worked tirelessly to deliver this project for the community group, spent considerable funds that other community groups, just as important as Pickle, could only dream of having spent on them. I was so proud a couple of months ago when we got to go through the building and look at the almost finished building. And I thought then that the he said, she said that had happened throughout this project was almost past. We worked with the previous board to come up with the plan they were happy with. They were the ones that came up with the plan. Other adjustments were made along the way. But all in all, at the end of the day, for this magnificent project has been delivered, we have worked incredibly tirelessly, and the staff and the officers have worked so hard to be skilled the way they were on the weekend. I reiterate, for no invite to come to the mayor, councillors or the executive of the council is just absolutely disgusting. And I want to highlight this in a letter. I'm sure that I could find a just as worthy community group in Bunurong that would love the same support of finances spent on them as this group has had spent on them. And they might even be a little bit thankful, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tessari. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. As Brett stated, there has been some recent public commentary from the Pickle Garden chairman around the issue of a council invitation to the open day. And these comments that were made are both misguided and inflammatory. And on this basis, council has asked that they be retracted and look forward to this response. It's really disheartening to be in this situation, as our contribution from council has been huge. We want the best for our community and recognise the important services that Pickle offer, and that's why our commitment has never wavered. And from now, I hope that Pickle can work with us better on servicing our community.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Does any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Holstead.
Mr. Mayor, I talk a lot in this chamber, but after the email I received on the weekend, I thank Councillor Tessari for raising this item. I received an aggressive email from a member who was angry that there was no representation from council to their open day at Pickle. Council's, as I agree with Councillor Rooks and Councillor Tessari, council has worked tirelessly through delivering this project. And it's a fit for purpose development because we wholeheartedly support the wonderful work of the volunteers that deliver incredible results for the local community and beyond. I'd like to point out that the volunteers obviously have nothing to do with this. It's coming from the hierarchy of Pickle. There was a lot of commentary through the process of building the development that was put out publicly, and the council was in the firing line at every opportunity through the process. This was frustrating for council because I agree with what Councillor Tessari and Councillor Rooks have said. Council have bent over backwards. We have contributed financially significant funds. I certainly would fight the Bunurong ward along with my councillor colleagues in the Western Port ward to say that we would also have community groups that would relish in the amount of money that council has put behind this project. I'd also like to say that as late as Friday afternoon, our council teams were working with the community garden group to support them in resolving some of their concerns. They left that meeting with full agreement of a way forward. And this has been to the credit of the tireless energy that our officers have put into this and continue to put into this project. Council absolutely respects the efforts of all of our community groups across Bass Coast, and we endeavour to show our gratitude by attending as many events as possible and advocating strongly on their behalf. We like to work in partnership and good faith with all groups. However, we can't do this if good faith is not reciprocated and we are not provided the courtesy of being respectfully included. So I will support a letter being written by you, Mr Mayor, to the CEO of Pickle or the Chair of Pickle. And I hope that our disappointment is well and truly, or the sentiment is put fairly firmly in that letter, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Tassari,
Happy to put it to a vote.
put that to a vote. Those in favour? Against? That's carried. That brings us to the announcement of the next meeting of council. The next council meeting will be held on the 15th of March 2023 in the Bass Coast Civic Centre Council Chamber, Balliol Street East, Balliol Street East, Wonthaggi, commencing at 1 p.m. I now declare the meeting closed.